Gary's big day. Gary Bettman awoke that morning to a phone call. "Good morning, Mr. Bettman," the cheery voice on the other end said. After a one-week vacation from all things NHL, Gary was pleased that his request to have not a city, player, or especially a team name mentioned to him was met. The voice continued, "We have fresh coffee, Bruins, so you can take some with you on the ride to the airport once you get all your ducks in a row." Minutes later, Gary, coffee in hand, saw his shiny taxicab pull up. The friendly young cabbie heaved Gary's bags into the trunk. "Holy cow, real heavy there, bud," he japed. "Don't mean to curse a blues streak, but you mind lightening your load next time?" Gary stood agog as the young man busted a gut. "Oh, my stars, buddy, just messing with ya. Devil's in the details, you know." And although that last sentence didn't make any sense to him, Gary gave a weak chuckle and politely smiled and nodded. Once inside the car, the young man's talkative nature refused to dissipate. "Car's just gone through the shop, pal. She's purring like a panther's, so it ought to be a smooth ride." Gary decided to engage the young man and inquired specifically what had been done. Oilers something," the young cabbie stammered. "Tell you the truth, not sure what the package included. Just saw a good price listed on the flyers." They arrived at Gary's terminal and unloaded the bags once more. The cabbie quipped, "What do you got in here, a Sabres printer? Just having a laugh, pal. Big Office fan. The best episode is when Oscar knows that the state senator is gay, but Angela doesn't." Upon entering the terminal, Gary asked a nearby attendant where the executive lounge was. A strong French-accented voice behind him answered, "Ah, the Maple Leafs lounge? I'm going theirs too." Gary asked the man if he wouldn't begrudge him tagging along. "Capital's idea, man. Right this way." Gary and his new friend sidled up to the bar. "Two Canadians, my goods, man," the Frenchman proclaimed, then whispered to Gary, "My treat, and hey, if you hungry, get what you want." Gary admitted he had not eaten breakfast amidst all the chaos that morning and put his order in. Not more than a few minutes later, the bartender returned. "Here you are, sir, a nice plate of saucy red wings." The French fellow recoiled. "Careful with those, pal. Don't get nuns on my blue jackets." When it was time to pay the tender and leave, the Frenchman felt sporting as they passed a billiards table. "Hey, man, you play? I'm not so goods myself, but my buds back home are real pool sharks." Gary politely refused, and they made their way to the gate. "Not looking forward to this, man. I got an avalanche of paperwork to do on theirs." Unsurprisingly, as often happens in these stories, the two men found themselves seated next to each other. "Oh, craps," the Frenchman lamented, as he found his paperwork ink had run, rendering his pages unreadable. "That's why you hate these inkjets printers." Gary saw the flight attendants about to pass out the drinks, nervous he would miss his shot. "Don't worry," one attendant said. "The one with the island airs on the side of caution, so she won't miss you." Upon arrival of the cart, Gary ordered a Coke. "Would you like a glass for that?" Gary said no, prompting the attendant to recoil. "You drink from the can? Suit yourself." And Gary left Gary with a sugary beverage. At this time, the pilot came on. "Hello, passengers. I'm Captain Kingsman. Happy to have you on board. We'll be in range for some turbulence, but don't worry. My father piloted Blackhawks in Desert Storm, and though my son wants to fly Predators, I've informed him that the flames of my love will burn as bright as ever." Upon hearing that all too informative statement, Gary perused the film section of the plane, scrolling past Into the Wild, March of the Penguins, Flight. "Hey," the Frenchman interrupted from his soggy sheets, "that's the movie with that guy who was the Hurricanes, right?" Gary responded in the affirmative. "Oh, how about this one then?" The Frenchman pointed to a title, which was Gary's favorite movie. "Yeah, I love this ones too. Coyotes Ugly." Welcome to the Triple Threat Podcast. I'm William Vaughn, coming to you from Vancouver, BC, and if you couldn't tell from the short story that we just all heard, this week's episode is about the National Hockey League, coming at me and with me and to you from Halifax, brothers Alex and Matt. How you guys doing?
Good.
Oh my god! I had to mute myself on that because I was dying.
It was actually
I'll give it a slow.
Yeah, I was surprised, very pleasantly surprised by that.
I don't know what was going on.
The Oilers and Flyers references there; those were the ones that kind of won me
The
over.
ones will be in range. Some the one with the island airs on the side of caution. I'm gonna take you to write that. You just start and you're like, no, I got this. Did you get every team?
Yeah, it's all 30.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he cheated at the end with the movie titles, but in a good way. It was like you cut the corners.
I did.
There's one logical fallacy, one in that story.
Which one?
They would never show flight on an airplane.
No, and I think they actually.
They might. I don't know. I was just like, why would you watch Flight on Flight?
I've heard reports that no, I have heard reports that people have been on an airplane and they've played.
Have you guys seen that
Flight.
movie?
I haven't.
Yeah, I watched it on the airplane.
No, you didn't.
No, it's on Netflix.
That was very, it's a disturbing watch through some scenes. It's a good movie, but just like, the climax, I guess, which happens early. Anyway, sorry, about hockey.
All good. National Hockey League starts this Wednesday, October 8th.
Is it really?
Yeah, and with the new deal with Rogers, apparently you're going to actually have to go out of your way to not watch a game, as it's got games on Sportsnet, CBC, City TV, and FX Canada. It's all over the place. I saw they released a graphic a couple of months ago of like what a typical day will look like, and just like George Stroumboulopoulos says in the commercial, you get about 7 games at a time, or like 7 games to choose from, which is great. So no more of the. Yeah, well, no more of this. If you're a Leafs fan and the Canadiens game is on, you miss that game, or vice versa. Or if the late game's on, it's not the, say Canucks and Sharks. It's actually the Oilers and Flames. You'll actually get both games. So,
show me Alberta games. I mean, it's just it's depressing to watch right now.
Yeah, it's great being here on the West Coast because the early game starts at 4, late game starts at 7, which isn't which is hardly a late game at all, as opposed to being out where you guys are, and the late game starts at 11 and goes to.
Man, like the Canucks playoff run a couple years ago when they were in the finals. Oh, like I think there was one
tiring.
Either in the Western Conference final or in the Stanley Cup final, and I went to like 3 overtimes, and I was just up. It was like 4 in the morning, and I had to be up in like 3 hours, and I was like, I don't care. I just need them to win. Like, I'm not staying up all this time to have them lose, and I think Burrows ended up scoring in overtime, so that was very pleasing to me. But I was just like, just dying in bed.
Yeah, the only Stanley Cup game I had ever, the only Stanley Cup final game I saw live was one here, and that was one where Burrows scored maybe one of the quickest overtime goals I've ever seen, and that was really
yeah, that was good.
With the
he bites people, but he scores some OT winners.
Yeah.
Is he toothy? Is he the one who bit the guy's glove?
He's the one who bit. I think it was. I think it was Sean Thornton, but I'm not sure. Who's no longer with the Sabres. Yeah, he put his finger in his mouth. That was just so stupid. That was embarrassing.
You put your finger in someone's mouth, is it gonna get bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Your finger gonna get bit.
Your finger gonna get bit.
Yeah.
I know you just said it, and I said the same thing, but I also wanted to say it. And I wasn't going to.
It's called reiterating. You reiterated my opinion, and I appreciate it.
Yeah,
you're a real.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're a real idiot. That didn't come out right.
I was actually going to make that same joke, but figured you would. So.
See, that's what we get. That's what we get when we do X amount of shows, right? This is like what, episode 142? Is that what we're on right now?
This is episode 197.
197.
I can tell you what episode we're on right now if you want.
Now, 168 of those are hidden episodes. You have to find them somewhere in the deep web.
Yeah,
but they're there.
And the deep web.
It's actually a bit of a milestone, to be honest with you guys.
Is this 20?
Episode 25.
Don't be honest with us. Lie to us. This is episode
3,000. Episode 3,000.
To the deep web. We'll get to hockey eventually, you guys.
Episode 25. No, we're on hockey right now. 25, of course, being not a lot of hockey players wear 25, actually. It's not a very popular number.
Are you talking about players don't wear it or good players don't wear it?
Not a lot of good players wear it, unless, Matt, you're about to bring up someone excellent.
You kind of have your standard numbers, I guess, that people would wear. Like, same with soccer or football or anything like that. Like your 12s and your whatever. Your
12s
and stuff like that.
Yeah, 12's a popular number. Goalies.
We won't talk about 12s right now.
Good.
About that later.
we'll talk about number 12 next week.
BX used to be 25 for the Canucks.
Boom Boom, yeah. Of course, he's a defenseman. Most
for sure.
Bielska. Most defensemen wear between numbers like 2 and 8, I would say.
Which I like that. I like that there's that kind of tradition there.
Yeah, and the goalies wear low numbers too, or they were either.
But also 31.
Or yeah, I didn't know this the other day. I saw an old picture of Martin Brodeur with like a flat top buzz cut back in his early Devils day. He's number 29, and like Nail Yakupov in Edmonton changed from number 64 to number 10 for some reason.
Oh, because he got 64 because someone else had 10, and so 10 was his thing.
Who had 10? Oh, it was. I
think it's some old guy. I really wish I could remember.
10 for what?
It was Sam Gagne, was it? No, it was Gagne was like 89 or something.
Might have been, but 6 and 4 make 10, so that's probably why he did that.
I thought Andrew Ference had 10. Oh my gosh.
Oh, Maxime Talbot, 25.
That's not a. That's not a great player though.
No, it's not.
And
I wish someone would just amalgamate all the horrible local commercials that professional athletes do. I'm sure there's like a YouTube cut or something, but they're so horrific. Like specifically the Penguins players.
I saw Chandler Jones one this week where he was talking about how chairs had nice
Bob's? Bobapedic?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's Bob's, yeah. And there's one like Julian Edelman from like 2009. He's got like the Bieberiest haircut you've ever seen. He's like, "Hi guys, I'm Julian Edelman." And now he's like, "Sup?"
Is that what he sounds like? He should have.
What's up?
Good thing he's stuck with. Good thing he's stuck with football.
Yeah, instead of pop singing.
Instead of talking.
Well, I may have embellished his voice. His voice.
His vace.
His vace.
El vace grande.
Yeah. So where are we going with this preview? Where are we starting?
Well, we'll start with.
Let's do it geographically, but in no order whatsoever.
Let's do it geographically clockwise, starting with Winnipeg. No, okay.
It's almost noon, so 12 o'clock. That's actually not a bad choice.
Yeah, noon, 12 o'clock. We know what you meant.
Last year's season ended in dramatic fashion in game 7 of or was it game 7? It was game 5.
What happened? Stanley Cup final.
I don't remember.
Stanley Cup final. I know it finished in double overtime.
It was a game that if LA won, they would have won the Stanley Cup, and they did. And New York?
I think they won in 5 against New York.
Yeah.
And this year, LA looks good. They look really good. So does Chicago. The West again looks really, really strong. And the East, I can't. We'll get to predictions at the end, but I can't really put a finger on what team could come out of the East. That's going to be a tough call.
Yeah. See, with me, what happens, I completely forgot who was in the Stanley Cup Finals and who won, but what happens is I'll pick a team, last year was the Canadiens because my roommate was a huge Canadiens fan, and then you, follow them along, and then they get out, and you're like, I don't really care what happens anymore. I don't care if it's the Kings in L.A. That's a terrible series for me.
That's
Rangers in L.A.
Kings in
Split squad. That's how good the West is.
Yeah, they got to split up L.A. They should put 2 teams in L.A. They have. Montreal had a very exciting run last year until Carey Price met with injury, and Tokarski tried to back him up. And
Justin Tokarski.
That was weird, too.
Budai's our backup, but you know what? Tokarski. We're just going to, put him in there, see what you can do about it.
Yeah. I don't know who you get to backstop yourself, the kind of unproven rookie or Peter Budaj.
I just don't know why you're carrying a backup who you don't trust to start for you if need be.
Yeah,
but no.
Alex, I agree with you. It's logic minus.
I don't know if it would have made a difference anyway. That was a tough series, and you needed Price. He's their guy. Price and Subban are all they have.
Hey, he's their guy. He's our guy in the Olympics, man. That guy was a stud.
Yeah, he was outstanding.
He played hurt then. But we actually.
I just find that's probably not good for maintaining NHL players in the Olympics. Where he's like, I played injured the whole time. Montreal's probably like, but we pay your salary.
Well, the worst for that was the Islanders.
Yeah,
losing John Tavares. That basically sewered their season.
Oh my God, I forgot about they're so not newsworthy. I completely forgot about that. But yeah,
that's true.
That's brutal. Not newsworthy, but you just don't hear about them. Although they were in the playoffs last year, so not last year, year before. So
yeah, they were in the playoffs. Before.
Maybe the more I talk about hockey, the more I'll realize I semi know.
Oh yeah, you watch enough Sportsnet and Sports Center and Sports Dome and
Dutchie drives me nuts.
Sports world. Yeah. Sidney
Nuts in a good way?
Crosby, that was.
No.
Hey, he's the commissioner of the fantasy football.
Yeah, those commercials are kind of funny, but I don't know. I feel they're like, Jay and Dan are gone. Why don't you try and dress us up a bit? And it's like, no.
No, the worst is Mudryk, who tries to be funny, but that's just me. But that's a good thing that TSN lost a lot of hockey games, and now it'll be mostly on Sportsnet. This year in the NHL, a couple of minor rule changes, mostly to do with the shootout.
Move field goals back.
Yeah, you. What's the other rule? I don't know. Now prior to overtime, a dry scrape of the ice will be performed, and the teams will switch ends, so the defenseman will be on the long change. This is intended to increase scoring in overtime.
I did not know they didn't do the ice over.
Or maybe between regulation and overtime, it's only a minute.
It's like no time. Yeah,
it's only a minute. And now they don't know. They actually don't know how much time the dry scrape is going to take. They don't know if it's going to be 5 minutes, which people worried is going to kill the flow of the game.
Yeah, that's true.
It'll probably be about that long. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Why don't they know how long it'll take? They don't study this.
Tried it one time.
Just when you get on the ice. No. We'll just do the dry scrape.
Well, because they actually
but you get out right now. Like I can see that. No. Well, okay.
They didn't have a research and development camp this year. They've had one, I believe, 2 years ago. They had one in 2012, and they didn't really have one.
Okay.
So they're just kind of spitballing ideas. The other thing is the trapezoid.
Putting them into practice.
The trapezoid will be wider, and the hash marks outside the face-off circles will extend from 3.5 feet to 5 feet. So that's going to make a big difference.
What's that to try and prevent?
Try to prevent wingers from tangling each other up in the face-off.
Okay.
Which
That's not going to do anything.
Is one thing. Yeah, it's a 1.5 feet, right? 1.5 feet, so it's like 9 inches each way.
Yeah.
That's one of the things.
You were telling a joke about how you didn't know how long 1.5 feet was, but then you did. No, that's exactly it.
That's the thing that drives me nuts about hockey is when they get tangled up in the face-off and throw guys out, and then kind of like they kind of like tease the puck like you're about to throw a ball to a dog.
Like, get out of there.
It's like, oh, I threw it, and then you still have it in your hand.
Like, is the ref in football going to pretend to blow the whistle before the kickoff? She's like, no. On my whistle. No. I know it looks like I'm going to blow it. I haven't blown it yet, and I just need you to. Oh, okay, the ball fell off the tee, so we're going to redo this whole thing.
Just blew my fingers. It's not.
Do you see how I'm pointing at the whistle right now?
Yeah.
You see how I'm not dropping the puck? I need you to be polite. Anyway, yeah, I don't know why they do that.
I just blew my fingers. That's all I did.
Yep.
So
it wasn't the whistle. I whistled, but it wasn't the whistle. And see, that's why you have to pay attention.
I was just looking at an attractive lady in the stands, and I decided to.
Cat call. Is that a cat call? No, it's not a cat call.
It's more like a budgie. It's more like a budgie call. Yeah, girls don't like when you do that. By the way, I've noticed.
What?
But another
I
rule.
yell at women all the time.
Other minor rule change is that coaches are no longer required to submit a shootout list. You can just kind of pick guys as you go, which makes sense.
You should believe that it was ever necessary.
Well, it should be like the Olympics. You should just be allowed to pick the same guy over and over again. Who was the fellow for the U.S. who scored like 3 times in the Olympic shootout?
The guy from the Blues.
TJ
Oshie?
No, Oshie's Canadian. What the heck am I talking about? Backus? Was it Backus? Backus. It's Backus. Is it Jackal? It's Jackal. It's Jackal.
It's Oshie.
It might have been Oshie. Frig.
Is that his name?
I didn't know I was going to talk about this. I thought Oshie was Canadian.
Talk amongst yourselves, and I'll try and find something.
Yeah, you.
This doesn't play video.
Look at the internet box.
He is from Washington, so I think it was Oshie.
Oh, what? No.
Yeah,
Oshie.
it is Oshie.
Okay, there you go. We're smart. Don't worry. We're awesome. We still got it.
You should still listen to this.
We should still listen to this.
If you haven't turned this off already, please continue to not turn this off.
Ugh. We are. This is so far it's going not good. It should be a good year. Let's just mention a couple teams here. I'm gonna put my thing down, flip it, and reverse it here.
Oshie, by the way, went 5 times in a row and ultimately went 4 for 6 in that shootout,
which is insane.
And they won, right? Yeah,
they won.
That was one of those things when you're on Twitter and everybody you follow is like freaking out, and you're like, I don't think anybody watches hockey, but all right, that's the kind of the communal nature of the Olympics and social media, which is a positive, I think. Anyway, Back to the Boerville.
More like Boerville. So we're going to just briefly discuss each of the teams, and obviously some teams will get a little more than others, and we'll try to concentrate on one story. And we're going to go in reverse alphabetical order because
There you go. I knew you'd have some sort of process.
It's my process for figuring it out. We're going to start at the Winnipeg Jets.
You are starting at Winnipeg.
Yes.
That was a joke earlier, but it's actually the case.
It's actually the case. They did not finish so good last season. It's because they're in a central division that's pretty darn good, and they certainly aren't ready yet. They still feel like the Atlanta Thrashers of a couple years ago,
too, I think, which is not
well,
positive.
and that's the big problem when you got a star player who's just kind of like,
Wants to go to
I don't want to
Philly.
play here. That's a big problem, and that's a big. It's just a big burden for your team to kind of have to shoulder. If one guy, I mean, it's hard.
He's
Guys, imagine
basically
if we were
your
doing. Imagine if we were doing this podcast, and
Right.
one of us was like, "Yeah, I don't know, I think I'm going to go to another podcast." Well, if they mentioned that, like, if they didn't mention that, but you kind of felt that vibe off them every episode. If we were
Right.
kind of like, "Yeah, okay, Matt, I get you want to do other podcasts, but you're on this one right now, so."
Deal with it.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah, you can't go to Philly. You have to stay on this podcast.
Is Momo still the coach there?
Yes,
I'm
he
just
is.
throw
Yeah,
out
I
random
think
nicknames
he
that
actually
don't exist,
just
and you guys have to figure out who they
no,
are.
Paul Maurice, former Leafs bench boss and TSN panelist.
Momo, Pomo, call him what you will.
I think he just signed a 4-year deal as well. Yeah, a new 4-year contract. So there you go. And he turned things around.
So meaningless.
He turned
Like
things
you
around.
can sign a
last
4-year contract and just be like, nah. Never
But
mind.
he does get all the money, which means it's a good thing for.
Yeah,
Coach
it's good
Steve.
for him. I don't know why. I don't know.
Big news. I'd say one of the big stories out of Winnipeg, the number one prospect is a Nikolai
Ehlers?
Ehlers out of Halifax.
Sort of.
Yeah, I know he's
Played his junior here. He's from like
By way of-
he's Denmark.
Scandinavian or something.
He's Danish.
He's Danish. So yeah, no, I'm excited to see what he can do. It looks like he might have a chance to make the team. Knock on wood.
It looks like he'll probably make the team next year. He's 18 years old, so he's young as a.
Next year. I thought he was going to make it this year.
Yeah, no, he's
Never mind.
still
Dirty back with the Mooseheads.
still a young kid.
This is why I don't talk.
I think so. You guys would know though, because they play in your city.
You'd be surprised.
Not in mine. They play in your city, and they have inexpensive tickets. But they're.
wanna know?
There you go. Winnipeg perennially has finished near the bottom, so they have some good prospects, some good picks, and I can't see them doing any better this year. We'll see where Evander Kane ends up. Patrick Kane is in, and Chicago.
Chance of making playoffs, 14%.
They'll probably finish at the bottom of the Central again. I mean,
But does that mean they make the playoffs?
no, it doesn't
That
mean
would be
like-
unlikely.
That
That would be
means
unlikely.
they do not make the playoffs.
Oh, okay. So
They're in a division with Colorado, St. Louis, Chicago, and Minnesota and Dallas.
Hockey. I guess.
Last is bad. Oh, I didn't know
I thought you meant
that.
bad being good. Oh, it's a jar of preserves.
It's a job. It's not a beastly, shrieky thing where it's like, "Well, because bad is good to us." It's not that kind of confusing. or the Michael Jackson bad, where bad is cool.
I don't get the beastly, shrieky reference.
It's from Care Bears.
Care Bears.
I
right?
know. I'm kidding. I was trying to
Yeah.
act like an adult.
Well, this
Trying
is
to
not.
act like an adult. That's going to be the story of my the title of my autobiography.
That's the. I don't know. It's the who was the guy who played Webster, the little dude? Yeah, him. Moving on to Washington, the Capitals. Big story there is Alex Ovechkin's continual decline. He's a ice time leader. I think he led the team in scoring. Yeah, he had 51 goals this past season. Won the Rocket Richard Trophy.
So let me piggyback on that. Most goals in the league, and I want to say 90% sure he had the worst plus minus in the league. Like he was still like scoring 51 goals. He was still like a minus 37 or something. ridiculous.
35 actually.
I
But
think
that was still good.
I think
because
Alex
he's declining when a guy puts up 51 goals.
Yeah, but
But if you're plus, like I feel like plus minus is such a good indicator of the type of hockey player you are. You're more of a liability if you're minus.
But his
Like, he's
team,
Sort of puck. I mean, the plus minus still is pretty crappy.
his team's declining. His defensive game is not good. I think Alex Edler actually had the worst plus minus in the league.
142.
Which is not good. I think it was something around that. No, I can look it up, but he's the star of the team, and his team's declining. You know, they finished with 92 points in 2011, 2012, less so in 2012, 2013, obviously because of the shortened season. But last year they finished with 90 points, and I think
had, like,
they
that one
missed
season.
the playoffs too.
I think they played Pittsburgh in either the Eastern Conference Final or right before that, and it was down to Game 7, and then they just got blown out by Pittsburgh. I think that was the year Pittsburgh won the Cup. But since then, they kind of had that one chance, and it's just been crap ever since.
That's the other thing about Ovi is he really isn't good at showing up at big games. He wasn't really big for
The
Russia in the
Olympics.
Olympics
Yeah.
this year. That was pretty embarrassing. But
Or
the big,
in Vancouver in 2010 when they played Halifax, played Canada, and they lost like 7-2. Like, they're just like, we were like, ugh, let's see how this game goes, and it's like, all right, that went really well.
we smooshed them. They got
Even
smooshed.
better than I could have imagined.
They got really smooshed. But the big news out of Washington, too, is Barry Trotz, former bench boss in Nashville, is now hired with the Capitals. So we'll see if he can kind of rally the boys and make a difference
Ask you a
there.
question without sounding dumb. Who was the transition between Oates and him, or is Oates like, because Oates wasn't there last year? Because I saw his face on TV way too often.
It was Oates. It was Oates.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's been no one in between then.
No one in between.
Oh, okay.
Washington missed the playoffs, and then they
Oh,
fired.
then he got
Exactly.
They fired
I
Oates.
saw
and they-
that whatever's going on with his face way too much and wasn't sure.
Oates out, Trotz in. So there you go. Trotz, I realize, is also the Anne Graham lovers Torts. John Tortorella, who is not in Vancouver this year. John Tortorella was replaced by Willie Desjardins as Trevor Linden took over hockey operations. He got a new coach, got himself a new GM.
Like your transition game.
You like that one? That wasn't bad. New GM
Wrote
got
that
himself
down.
a couple of new players. They dealt Kessler. He dealt Jason Garrison. And they picked up Nick Menino and Radim Verbata, who Verbata takes the number 17 number right from Kessler to himself. Hopefully he'll be on the number one line here with the Twins, Daniel Hendricksedin, who's combined for only 97 points last year, which is not
Combined?
a lot combined for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
9 times.
They did not have a good season last year. Vancouver missed the playoffs for the
it's
first
brutal.
time since 2008. And Alex Edler finished with the league. Yeah, Alex Edler finished with the
Like
league
your
worst,
Edlers.
minus 39, which is,
Yeah.
as Alex would say it with me.
Nah
boys,
good.
Nah good. Yeah, there you go.
That's going to be my catchphrase now. I didn't know it, and now I'm just going to drive it into the ground.
Oh, we're gonna have a T-shirt that says "Nah good" on it.
Nah good. And it's going to
that-
have a picture of my face.
Yeah, and
That would make people think that you're not good.
yeah,
No,
that's
it's
true,
okay.
Alex.
Okay with that?
It's my
Yeah.
catchphrase, man.
All right.
That is.
It's what I'm known for. It's not gonna be like an arrow pointing at me like I was stupid. It's not gonna be like not good. It's gonna be like a word bubble. What do they call those things? A word bubble? Is that a thing?
It's
like
literally
comics.
what they call it. Yeah.
Okay, good. Sometimes I forget what things are called and I just describe them. Just to talk about Kessler for a second. Sorry.
We'll get to Kessel in a second, but you're right.
Yes.
Oh, that would've been a
I
good
was
transition.
I was hanging out with my buddy, and he's like, "Man, Kessel got traded." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Kessel got traded." I was like,
No,
"Are
you
you? Who
idiot.
told you that?" He's like his girlfriend's name. I was like, I was like, Ryan Kessler got traded. And he's like, "Oh," I was like, "Yeah."
Oh boy.
Come on, man. So, anyway.
She was actually she was completely wrong.
He's totally wrong.
Other big news in Vancouver is their goaltending situation has a bit of a I'll call it a
completely forgot
Band-Aid
about this.
and not
Completely forgot about
stitches.
this.
But out of St. Louis comes Ryan Miller, the man who almost
The frying pan
backstopped
into the fire.
U.S. to a gold medal in 2010 before the guy who we traded this year, Roberto Luongo, kind of got that for us. But it's going to be the Miller-Lack 1-2 combo. Jacob Markstrom, who they picked up for Luongo from Florida, got put on waivers. So there you go.
So how's that? What's the feeling in the city then, Bud, about how this year's going to be?
Yeah.
Nowhere to go
Well,
but
I'll
up?
tell you, the nowhere to go but up. Yeah, that is it. And there's
No
there's
expectations.
posters at the bus stops everywhere. It says change is coming. You know, they really want to get back to exciting hockey.
man.
They
Change
want to
is
get back to they want to get back to winning, of course, and this is like
Don't we all?
signing Miller is basically them being like, look, I mean, they started Eddie Lack for what it felt like 30 straight games last season, and he wasn't really ready for that challenge. He's a good goaltender, but he wasn't quite up to it. Also, the problem was we weren't scoring enough goals for him, which is a problem. So signing Miller is basically being like, look, we got a good team to get us into the playoffs, and depending, I don't know how deep in the playoffs they can go. It all depends. I mean, we're still a team that lives and dies by what the Twins can do. So if they can get back to the magic they had in 2010, 2011, then we're golden. But
What was always good for Miller was that he was a great goalie on a bad team, and now let's see what he can do on a decent team. But it was the same thing in St. Louis. Everyone's like, making a run, gonna go for it. It's like, first round or maybe second round, I don't know. But they didn't go too deep in the playoffs. They're like, that did not go well.
I think they played Chicago in the first round. That's not good.
I'm gonna stop. That's gonna be the last time I say it in the next.
We need it. We need it.
Okay,
No, it won't be the last time you say it, but I appreciate you making an attempt. Speaking of Kessel, you're right, Alex. The Toronto Maple Leafs.
I appreciate you making an attempt.
Speaking of Kessel, the Toronto Maple Leafs missed the playoffs last year, but made the playoffs the year before, almost ousting the eventual Eastern Conference champions, Boston Bruins, in a very exciting game. The situation there is, I would say, goaltending. James Reimer in that campaign tried to backstop them. I think they had a 4-1 lead against Boston, and then Boston charged back, and eventually Reimer kind of let the floodgates open, but they got Jonathan Bernier there. We'll see if Jonathan Bernier is ready to be.
There's a lovely video online
A good
of
starter.
Leafs fans watching that game, and they go 1-1, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1. They're all losing their minds, and you see it go 4-2, 4-3, 4-4, 5-4, and they just lose their minds. The other way, the non-good mind losing.
So that night I was
horrific
watching the
sense that
game at
was.
home, and I was going to watch it in a bar, but I was like, and then it was the third period and it was tied. So I put my Leafs jersey on and ran down to a bar at the end of the street, full Leafs fans. And they put it on the big screen, and I just grabbed a beer and stood up, and we're all like, oh, all right, here we go. And they just lost in overtime. Like, ugh. That was rough. But the Leafs, we'll see how they do this year. I didn't see them make any really big moves. They got Mike Santorelli, who was great for the Canucks last season until he got hurt. And they lost David Bolin, who was their big signing last year.
Clarkson was their big signing last year, wasn't he?
He was one of the big signings. Clarkson had what did he do? Yeah, Clarkson.
It was one of those it's the same thing when they picked up Jason Blake. Like he had one good season. It's a total outlier of everything else you've ever done in your entire life. Here's 7.5 a year. Here's 5.5 a year. Enjoy that. You're like, okay, let's not look at the outliers. Let's look at the trend, and the trend is decent player, not worth nearly as much money as you're giving him. And Blake was a bust, and it looks like Clarkson could be the same thing.
Okay,
he's a scrapper. I mean, he's not even it's not really his game. His game was, I'm just kind of sneaking through all this stuff, and we'll see what happens.
Last year, he finished with 5 goals and 9 points. And he also missed
that expectation.
a bunch of games at the beginning of the season, because you remember that preseason game against Buffalo.
He came
off the bench.
Preseason game, you idiot.
So this year, the preseason, the hockey gods decided to bash his pretty little face up and break his orbital bone.
Or something? Yeah.
Which
that's gonna suck. Breaking.
I don't
want to
breaking your face, right?
Yeah.
Like that. That's got to be a tough situation. Anybody out there who's broken their face, let us know. That's as George Costanza would say. That's gotta hurt. Speaking of that's gotta hurt. Remember Steven Stamkos last year when he went into that goalpost and broke his leg?
Yeah.
That had to hurt.
Missed the Olympics.
Missed the Olympics, and that was a rough one. But the Tampa Bay Lightning still finished respectably. Despite him getting hurt. Tampa Bay making a big pick in the draft last year, in the 13 draft, taking a Mr. Jonathan Drouin from Halifax, the QMJHL, who stepped in nicely when Nate went off to play in Colorado. Drouin stepped up nicely for the Mooseheads and took him pretty deep in the Q playoffs, didn't he? Take him to like the Q finals or something?
No, I want to say they were one short, but I can't remember now. I was there. I want to say they lost to Mooski or something, but it doesn't matter. Let's not focus on things I don't know because we'll be here all day.
Listen, buddy, you don't know Phil Library. No, the Lightning are looking good. They signed Jason Garrison from Vancouver. Gary's got the big point shot. He's very effective on the power play. And they didn't really lose anybody. They got a pretty good first line there with Palat Stamkos and Ryan Callahan. So we'll see what
Marty kind of in between at the end of last season.
They lost Marty, who I think was good for the team, even though Marty went to the Stanley Cup final with the New York Rangers, and we'll get to them in a little bit. But Marty, obviously a heart and soul guy. And the good story about Marty, well, I guess I might as well mention it now, was when he made the Olympic team and was pretty effective for us. He's a little guy. He plays like a little guy, and he's got heart of a champion. And the kind of the feel good story of the playoffs is when he lost his mother, and his team rallied around that.
Okay, yeah.
Well, it's hard to call that a feel good story of the playoffs.
Yeah,
but, you know,
okay. Stories when he lost his mother.
Well, you know what I'm trying to. You know what I'm trying to say here. The team rallies around there.
Then that was a good story. I mean, that was obviously very rough on him, and never a good time. But that
team rallies around their boy. But last year, Tampa Bay finished second in the Atlantic Conference division, so that was a good finish for them. Not a good finish for a team with San Jose, who again was ousted in the playoffs.
I don't know why they keep trying. I really don't. It should be like the Prem, where they're just like, let's play the regular season, and whoever finishes on top, and that'll be it.
The best was Dan Boyle being interviewed when they asked if they just let LA win a game last playoffs. Are you serious?
So stupid.
Seriously, you're asking me that question? Are you seriously asking me that question?
Fun question, bro.
Glad question, bro. Pulls the Bryce Harper card.
Bryce Harper.
But what remains to be seen is whether Marleau and Thornton are the guys going forward, or if they should just maybe rethink their leadership there.
I hear a lot of talk about Thornton just being out of there.
Joe losing the C or being out.
No, being shipped out.
Losing the J.
Job. Is that what you mean? Job?
Jersey.
Well, San Jose would lose the J. They lose the Joe.
Well, but they should have. It's because he's losing his value a little bit because they keep crapping on him. But they could get a decent amount back for him.
Well, he didn't make the Canadian team in the Olympics, did he? I don't think he did. No.
It was funny actually. They showed the Canadian team, and then they showed guys who made the team, and then a whole other roster of guys who didn't make the team. You're like, damn, that'd still be an amazing team.
That's a real good team.
I'm telling you, man,
St. Louis and all these,
have a split squad. It'd be crazy. Well, San Jose made the actual team, but the Halifax connection to the San Jose Sharks is Conrad Abbott-Schauser.
Yes,
plays for them.
Friend of the show, Conrad
Abbott-Schauser. Speaking of friend of the Blues, moving on to St. Louis, worst transition ever. St. Louis wants to improve their playoff performances this year. They finished second in the Central Division last year, just behind Colorado, finishing with 111 points. That's a good amount of points. 52 wins. That's a good amount of that. Fronted by the line of Steen Backus and the aforementioned TJ Oshie. They picked up Paul.
Sounds like Steen Backus was one person there.
Steen Backus,
Jacob Steen Backus, and the rest of and the other fellers.
Alexander Steen Backus and Oshie. It's a law firm. They picked up Paul Stastny from the Colorado Avalanche, who they want to center their second line, and I can't see them finishing worse this season. They seem to be good. I think the big question is whether Brian Elliott can be the one guy in net for them, or if they're going to do a Brian Allen 1-2. St. Louis has seemed to have done well the last couple seasons.
Take guys and put them in there, and they're just like, nah, you're not totally doing it. Then I don't really think he's a fix.
They've done well the last couple seasons having a nice goalie tandem. I think it was like Elliott and Halak for a little while, and last year it was Miller, but Miller rode the pine. He wants to be a starter, obviously. As explains his move to Vancouver. And speaking of moves like Crosby, the Pittsburgh Penguins are
Boo!
We already got booed from very far away.
Finished first in the Metropolitan Division last year.
Is that what the division's called?
Yep.
Yeah, Metropolitan
I knew
Division.
Sorry, there's
that.
no hyphen like Will said it,
I
but
knew
it's
that.
called that.
Metropolitan, friend of Neo, brother of Neo.
The Metropolitan Division, and they're probably fixing to finish around there this year. The big signing, I would say, in the offseason was probably Christian Ehrhoff, who got bought out by the Buffalo Sabres. Doesn't sound so good, actually, when I say it like that. But Crosby's still the number one ranked player in the league, in the world. So
Crosby,
it's
Stills,
up to
and
him.
Rick Nash is there.
It's up to Rick Nash is in New York. It's up to him to see how far the Penguins can go in the playoffs. He's got to. I think the big debate is between him and Jonathan Toews. Who's the best player in the world? Is it him or Toews? And I think the big thing separating the two is Toews' success in the playoffs. He's back. He's taken his team to 2 Stanley Cup Finals, and won both. Whereas Crosby's only won 1 so far. And I would say that
that was years ago.
I would say
5
that
years ago.
Toews has a better team built around him, but that's just me.
Yeah, and the Penguins lost. Who'd they lose? They lost their 1-2 defensemen. I want to say
They lost Orpik
and
and Niskanen.
the other guy. And they both went to Washington, if I'm not mistaken.
Orpik is actually, both are going to be okay because.
But did they end up in Washington?
Yeah, they did. But
Okay.
the thing is, Orpik would have been
billions of
overpaid,
dollars?
and he's getting older. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
I mean, so
it's not that
stupid.
hard. It's
The
like
Niskanen
it would be nice to
contract
have him
was
there.
ridiculous. Isn't it like 42? It was something. It's like it's 42 for 7 or something like that. And it's like, really?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
And we're still okay we're still okay in terms of defense. That's the best part.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
lost. They lost
Clearly, Matt's a
Headhunter.
homer because he's saying we, and
Yeah,
we're fine, guys. We're okay.
Yeah, yesterday I wore a Pittsburgh Penguins shirt and a Pittsburgh Penguins sweater on top of it. I was a little bit embarrassed to be out in public, but sometimes you just got to double up.
But
Niskanen's,
I was a
But
little bit
far.
embarrassed to be out in public.
Niskanen's, it's 7 years,
That'll also be the subtitle
$40.25
of my
million.
autobiography.
There you go. And
40.25. So close enough, yeah, absolutely.
Nailed it.
5.75 a year, good gravy.
I love
it is
good gravy.
You
I
can
hate
afford.
bad gravy.
You can afford good gravy with all that money.
I can afford all the
And
gravy
they lost
you've
Headhunter
ever
James Neal, which
seen.
is.
We lost Will for a second.
Speaking of Headhunters,
Yeah, he's still going.
Oh, Will was still good.
the
Will,
Flyers.
we lost you for a second there, buddy.
Yeah, well, I'm here, and
Okay,
it'll all
good.
come. It'll come out in the wash.
That's yeah.
Yeah, Flyers. I don't know. They get this kid. Flyers this season. They finished last
Not
year.
going fast enough right now.
Yeah, I know. The Flyers finished third in the.
We're gonna have to do an elemental P pretty soon.
Yeah, no. The Flyers finished third in the Metropolitan Division. They got R.G. Umberger on the second line on the left wing, and we'll see how they do. But they lost Scott Hartnell, who signed in.
Where'd he go?
Who did they actually sign with? I think he signed with Columbus.
Where'd he go?
Columbus, yep. Columbus.
Signed with Columbus. Ottawa Senators signed Bobby Ryan to that big contract. They made Erik Karlsson the new captain. So obviously they're making big changes there.
Was Spezza their captain last year?
Yes, he was. They lost 2 captains the last 2 seasons. They lost.
What was with the Spezza deal? Like I know
Alfred
Alfie was
Spezza. I think
a
he's
free agent.
wanted
Was
out.
like no.
Ottawa's
and
on the
then-
way down. That's the problem. Ottawa's on the way down. So what do? Well, they keep a guy by overpaying for him,
Right.
and Carlson's already locked up.
So you're
so-
questioning Murray's management skills. I get it.
For sure, I am.
Yeah, he had
I think he would
Murray
be-
had a rough year last year too with
Yeah,
the
he
whole
did.
cancer scare.
Oh right, yeah. I feel.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind.
He's a good guy.
Never mind. He's a great
Well,
relief.
I mean, come on.
No, I'm just kidding. You know
still-
what I'd love to see?
still a guy
and
doing
I'm
a
sorry,
job.
I'm digressing hardcore, but I was thinking about this earlier. I want to see a two-sport athlete. I want to see someone play for the Senators and the Red Blacks. I want some guy, I don't care who, Carlson. Maybe he could punt. He could be the long
no.
snapper. I don't care. I want to see him play for the Red Blacks, and I want to see him on the ice. Same day, Deion Sanders style.
Obviously, they would never allow
Colonel
a
Sanders style.
hockey player to play Canadian football because there's no value in letting a guy.
Gets
do
laugh?
that.
That's actually a different person.
Those are brothers.
Yeah, I
No
know.
way 2 people have that last name.
Speaking of guys who gets
Sorry, bros,
laughs,
Should be a
Click down
comedian.
this
Should be a comedian, right?
yeah, they gets laughs. Is the New York Rangers play at Madison Square Garden? Martin St. Louis again. Like I said, big acquisition last year. Started slow and he started to grow, and he became a big player for them in the playoffs. A guy who wasn't a big player for them in the playoffs was Rick Nash. Another guy who wasn't a big player for them was the bought out Brad Richards.
Brad Richards.
Who got picked up now by The
problem with St. Louis is like it's great he's on the team, but I'm pretty sure he's going to qualify for Social Security in like 2 years. So I mean, you don't have too much time with him.
yeah, it is a bit of a problem.
He owed.
Alongside the Rangers and New York Islanders, who will move to the Barclays Center next year. But right now they're going to finish up their Brisnich in Uniondale. They got big moves in net. They got rid of Nabokov, and they got Halak, and Chad Johnson is the other goalie. No, not Ochocinco.
Wait a second. Yeah.
Who
There you go. There's your two-sport athlete
There's
right
your
there.
two-sport
Wouldn't
athlete
surprise me.
right there.
Like the biggest.
He's going to play for them and the
Put him
Giants.
on the
or
bench.
something.
He'll talk and he'll bring the fans in. He would too, but I mean, yeah, that'd be stupid.
But the big
Wouldn't put
problem,
past whatever that guy's name is.
the big
Wayne.
problem in the big problem last year in
That would be the one.
Big problem last year in New York was when they lost Tavares to an injury in the Olympics, and that really sewered their season.
Where did
the verb sewer come from? That's what I'm wondering.
No.
Okay.
Never mind. I can't remember his name.
Was this
Young guy who was a pretty decent forward, and then went to Buffalo, and I'm not sure where he ended up.
Matt Molson? He went back.
Matt Molson.
He's back in Buffalo.
Okay.
He went to I think he was in Montreal for a little bit.
No,
Wait a second.
he wasn't in
moving-
Montreal.
Moving across the Eastern Seaboard, because we got to hurry this up here, is the New Jersey Devils, who start life without Martin Brodeur, who played there for about 77 seasons, it feels, and Corey Schneider, former Canucks
Right in the fields.
backstopper, will be the starter for them.
I think you're going to want to hear this one.
He'll be
Thanks,
number
Gary.
one. Thanks, Gary.
Bittman.
Yeah, you must have had a good flight over. Big acquisition for them, too, is Mike Camilleri on the left wing. Jaromir Jagr, who turns 43 this year, was the number one scorer on the team last year. So that tells you about the state of things in New Jersey. Jaromir Jagr said he wanted to
Camilleri
play.
got paid too, isn't it? 5 for 25.
Something like that, yeah. Jagr said
Not bad.
Jagr said he wants to play until he's 50. He wants to be the next Gordie Howe.
Good. I want him to.
He's
fine.
50.
Do it.
50 years
He can
old.
stretch and he can
he can
kick.
kick.
He's 50.
He's 50.
Thanks, Molly
One of
Shannon.
the worst recurring characters.
Shout out to Molly Shannon.
You know who's not 50 is Shea Weber out there in Nashville.
Literally almost anyone else in the league.
No, everyone else.
Literally almost
Everyone
everything
else.
else in the league.
Literally everyone else.
Okay,
Not
so
almost.
James Neal signed in
Or one.
Nashville. So watch your heads, players in the Central Division.
Yeah.
Watch out, Hayden Panettiere.
But
Oh.
Nashville won the one that Seth Jones kind of pick off. I wouldn't say they won it because they didn't
Yeah,
have the
he
first pick.
fell to fourth. What do you mean they won the pickoff?
They won
Why
it.
does no one want this slice of pizza? Is there something wrong with it? Oh, well, I'm going to eat it.
He was a steal at fourth.
I will always eat the slice of pizza. I don't care.
Was Seth Jones, who tried to bash Zachary Fucale in the Memorial Cup final a couple years ago, but Zach Fucale got picked up by the Montreal Canadiens, who went pretty deep in the playoffs last year. They got to the Eastern Conference final.
Great run. It was a good run.
Done good. They done good. They finished third in the Atlantic Division, so we'll see if the new contract with Piquet Subban, they got rid of that distraction right off the bat. They're going to have 4 assistant
Backing
captains.
the trucks up.
They got 4 assistant captains this year, so that should be
No captain, right?
no captain. There's 4. No C's. Is 4.
If you're keeping score at home, 2 A's equal a C.
Yeah. If you know your
So tell
your
that
algebra.
to your parents. A
No,
C,
your
that's
algebra.
really 2 A's. So I don't really know why you're upset.
Oh yeah, not algebra. You're talking about marks, aren't you?
Yeah.
Like Khrushchev. Did someone say Khrushchev?
Well, it would just be a variable in algebra. I mean, it wouldn't have a value unless you'd solve for it. But we'll talk about that later.
But the big news
You
in
only
Montreal
have
is
some college, so
the big news. I'm street smart. How come that's not on the form? The big news out of Montreal is just we'll see how Carey Price does throughout the season. Moving on to Minnesota.
Some college.
Minnesota, who our dad says has the loudest building in the league. I'm inclined to believe them. Of course, that was.
But
a
what's
couple
his
years
frame
ago.
of reference, though? He's not. He might not be.
He's
wrong,
been to Montreal.
But I mean,
He's been to Montreal,
to,
too.
like, I'll give him.
He hasn't been to
I'll give him
Vancouver,
2
but I
others.
can't
I'll
imagine
give him 2
Vancouver
others.
would be pretty.
Vancouver has some of the worst fans ever.
Yeah.
Like, I love the team, hate the fans.
Hey, man, I'm one of them. But we'll see what Minnesota does. They signed Thomas Vanek. couple years ago. They paid big monies for Parisi and Suter, so we'll see how that goes. Oh, yeah, Matt Molson played in Minnesota. That's where he played.
Right, okay, yeah.
Matt Molson made $1 million in Minnesota.
Who's in Nets?
Who's in Nets? Who's on first? Not Josh Harding. Looks like Nicholas Backstrom. Josh Harding, I think, hurt himself in the preseason.
Wasn't Who's there for a bit? Am I mistaken? Briz. That weird goalie guy.
Goalie Briz. Yeah, he's there.
Yeah, Breeze was there.
Oh, Brizgalov. That's it.
No, Breeze is out.
But he was there.
But he was there he was there for
Just
preseason.
answer the question. Was he there at some point?
He was taking selfies with fans this week.
There you go. But not with bears. He's afraid of those.
I'm afraid of Baron Woods.
Speaking of guys who ain't afraid of no bears, the Los Angeles Kings, Stanley Cup winners last year, they could repeat this year. I mean, I don't know.
There's no reason why they can't.
There's no reason why they can't. Like their top 4 forwards, the top 12 forwards haven't changed. Top 60 haven't changed. Jonathan Quick is still
such a
stud
good career player to have on your team too.
Yeah, but then you got a guy like Justin Williams who's a stud in the playoffs and just scores winning goals and is the MVP.
Yeah, like
they're such a solid team from start to bottom. If you like
from the bottom, now we here.
If you like advanced stats, the Corsi and the Fenwick, they finished first in both those categories.
It's just the team that's going to go far is a team that's going to have the random dude step up. Like they always have it, and I think the Penguins kind of lack that a bit. It's all about their stars kind of not performing, but then, like when Carolina won, like Cam Ward stepped up unbelievably, or when the Kings won the first time, Quick stepped up, and last year was Williams, and in Carolina it was also Williams. So you always need those kind of role players to just play out of their minds to really make a difference.
Exactly, and the team that doesn't really have very good role players would be the Florida Panthers, I would say. Florida Panthers, who won the lottery last year, picked Aaron Ekblad first overall out of Barrie of the OHL.
Well, see, when you say last year, you mean this year?
I mean, I get confused as to what
I get confused because your confusion is also confusing to me.
Yeah, well, I just want to put you on notice, and I notice you too. They signed Willie Mitchell out of L.A. Old Willie's got 2 rings. He's going to join his former Canucks buddy Roberto Luongo down there in Florida. And I can't see Florida doing much better this year. I mean, they might, but who's to say?
I mean, no, they're not going to be a playoff team.
Speaking of not being a playoff team, the Edmonton Oilers are trending the wrong way, which is even keel. They have all this, all these young studs, or what the guys should be studs. The first line is Hall, Nugent Hopkins, and Eberle, and unfortunately, that's their offense that just can't produce. I think last year they finished, they tied for 24th for offense, and they were dead last in goals against. So
the combination there, we can't score, and we get scored on a butt ton, a buttload of times.
Not a good combo. They signed Leon Draisaitl out of Prince Albert. They picked him in the draft, 3rd overall, and we'll see what they can do if Brent Scrivens can backstop them to any success. But I would say the song remains the same there. In Edmonton,
he's better than Dubnyk. I'm better than Dubnyk, but I mean, we'll see what happens.
We'll throw on the pads there, Paul. See how you do. Speaking of seeing how they do, how will the Detroit Red Wings do? We'll see. Last year they finished 4th in the Atlantic Division. That was they were part of a big shakeup going from the Western Conference to the Eastern Conference. So that was a big change for them. But they've made the playoffs
it's like a whole year,
23
of daylight savings.
They made the playoffs 23 seasons in a row, which out of the 4 major sports, no other team can claim doing that, which is pretty huge. It's pretty huge.
That is huge. Quite a few Stanley Cups in that, run. I want to say 3 or 4.
I want to say 3, yeah.
Yeah,
no,
97.
Actually, I want to change my mind and say 4. Was it 97, 98, and 08? So that's 3.
Yeah.
Speaking of a team that won a Stanley Cup in the 90s, back in 99, the Dallas Stars have signed Jason Spezza out of Ottawa and Alex Hemsky out of
Alish.
Edmonton.
Hemsk.
Jamie Benn stepped up in a big way for them last year and has stepped up in a big way for Canada in the Olympics. Kari Lettinen's backstopping them. I think Edmonton's
Don't forget
poised to
Seguin.
do much
Don't forget
better.
Seguin.
Oh, I'm looking at a picture of Seguin right now. I won't forget about him.
Tells me more about you than I need to know.
Whoa.
He's looking good.
It's good looking kid. They finished fifth in the Central Division last year. Again, Central Division, a very packed division.
That just as a sidebar, the Ben Sagan combo was so good for, I don't know what you call those. I call it. It's not fantasy hockey, but it's just you pick players in a box.
Box hockey?
Box
I've
hockey.
never heard
Is
of
that
that.
what it's called?
Box hockey for sure. Bubble hockey, box hockey.
Yeah, whatever. But I mean, they're so good. They get you 0 points or 12 points a game. So it depends. But when they're hot, they're feeding off each other, and it was good for that thing. Recommendation to pick them this year again.
Which
Into
we
backsack
might do. Speaking of contract distractions, Ryan Johansson in Columbus still can't reach a deal with them at the time of this airing, which is Monday
real
morning.
happy about that.
Scott Hartnell was a big acquisition for the Blue Jackets, who are poised to finish better in the Metropolitan Division than they did last year. They finished fourth last year. They might finish a little bit better this season. But
And Horton, let's hope he's still there, and maybe he'll be healthy for a season.
as we all chuckle to ourselves,
I mean,
there's no chance.
I was the only one chuckling, but fine.
Well, I said to ourselves. Oh, by the way, Columbus side of the All-Star game this year. So if you're wondering where the All-Star game is going to be, you're lucky you listen to this podcast. And you're happy you listen to this podcast, too, because it's so darn good. I gave it a 10 out of 10. Speaking of a 10 out of 10.
Rank us on iTunes, would you? Or rate us on iTunes. We don't have enough iTunes ratings.
Give us a
I'm
give us
going
a
to
5
start
out of
getting
5.
upset.
Speaking of 5 out of
George, just
5, one thing that Nathan McKinnon can't do is win 5 Calder trophies because he can only win one as a rookie. But he was unanimous favorite last year. Nathan McKinnon was a stud in the juniors for Halifax, and he fit like a glove in Colorado.
What a good run they had, too. Just a real solid, just a bunch of youngsters. It's like the Edmonton Oilers model, but it worked.
And they added 2 oldsters this season. They signed Jerome McGinley and Danielle Briere. So we'll see what they can do for him. But they lost Paul Stastny, which I don't think is going to hurt him too much. Oh, speaking of old-timers at Split Town, John Sebastian Giguère, I believe, retired, didn't he?
Yeah, that's not really splitting town, though.
It is.
I saw his jersey hung up on the rafters on, what night would that have been? Thursday night? Wednesday night? When I went to the Mooseheads game.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I was there when they retired it. I remember. Pretty sure I made Dad leave early. Sorry, Dad.
Speaking of Dad leaving early, the Chicago Blackhawks played a lot of late games last year, and Dad had to leave early to go to bed. The Western Conference runners-up will not settle for second place. Brad Richards was signed in Chicago. That's who was driving.
Really?
Yeah, that's
I did not know that.
Crazy. Yeah, they signed. Yeah, that's why I listen to the show, Alex. They signed Brad Richards, but they also have Keith. No, they don't have Keith. They do have Keith currently, but they also have Taves and Taves and Kane. Good God, Miss Maud. They have Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane until 2023. So that's how you do it, folks. If you want to get your team locked up, please the fans. Lock your good players up for a good long time.
It's good for the GM. Just be like, how about we just pay you the same? And just hope they... Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, I don't care how much. 9.5? Sure.
Buttload of money. Speaking of buttload of money, Carolina paid a buttload of money for some players, and they have not seen a return on their investment.
Jordan Staal.
Let's see the injured Jordan Staal can come back.
The perpetually injured Jordan Staal. In this case, what, he break a leg?
Yeah, somebody thought he was going out for an addition, and they
Yeah,
said break a
you
leg.
gotta wish him good luck.
Which was not a good time. Speaking of guys that Matt met at the airport, Sean Monahan of the Calgary Flames look to improve on their
your segue
last
game.
year.
I actually met.
I'm trying to look. I
met him on a plane. I'll be clear.
Good. Okay, you met him on a plane. He was in line for the can. But they finished last year. They finished 6th in the Pacific Division, and I can't see them finishing any better this year. And we'll see. They signed Derek England out of Pittsburgh, and they also signed Jonas Hiller to be the number 1 guy. So if he can play better than Kari Ramo, remains to be seen. Speaking of remains to be seen is games that the Buffalo Sabres will play. And last year they finished with a horrible 52 points. which is last in the league by a long shot. They had 21 wins. How do you like that, guys? 21 wins. But they signed Matt Molson. They got rookie Sam Reinhart. And they also signed Brian Gianna and Josh Georges out of Montreal. So they're trying to make
Does Montreal have any players left? Like Vanek left, Briere left, whoever you just said.
They still have a pretty solid
players
roster
on the team. All right, good.
They have quite a few good players. We
Hey,
already
as long as
talked
they
about.
put the team on the ice, I mean, what more can you ask for?
We also already talked about them, so why would you bring them up right now, you fool? Boston is looking studly as ever. They finished last year. They finished first in the Atlantic Division, first in the Eastern Conference, and first in the league. They were not happy to be ousted in the playoffs against who the heck did they play? Against the Canadiens, which was a heck of a series. Anytime those two original six teams meet, it's a big deal. They did not acquire anybody last year or this year, but they got rid of Iginla, Mazzaros, Sean Thornton, and the goalie Chad Johnson, who does not wear the number 85.
Where did Iggy end up?
By the way, Iggy ended up in Colorado. No, not Colorado. I just said where he ended up.
Did you just say?
Yeah, Colorado.
Sorry.
No, I'm right.
Okay.
He ended up in Colorado. Speaking of places
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of places that aren't Colorado, the big news in Phoenix is that they aren't Phoenix. They're actually Arizona. The Arizona Coyotes, who Shane Doan sticks with thanks to his fierce loyalty to the team and loyalty to his own family. Devin Dubnyk is in Arizona, but he's going to be backstopping Mike Smith. Be backing up Mike Smith.
Backing up, yeah.
Yeah, back it up, back it in. Let me begin. Mike Smith, Canadian Olympian, who has got a nice shiny gold medal for not playing a single game. So
Did he even dress?
Well, he wasn't.
Like, I know he was
Alex,
close.
so he wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was close.
Oh, there he is again. That was Dracula.
But the Arizona Coyotes, by the way, finished 30th in the league in attendance. So if you're in the Arizona area,
get out of that city.
Why don't you help out? Why don't you help out your boys? Speaking of helping out boys, the Anaheim Ducks do a lot of charity work for the Boys and Girls Club down there in Anaheim, California. They are poised to finish probably near the top of the Pacific Division. They finished there last year. They finished first with 116 points, 1 point behind the Boston Bruins. They signed Ryan Kessler, Danny Heatley, and they got Barbie too. They got Jason LaBarbera. Timo Solani retired last year. He also said in his
Boudreaux in the face,
revealing tell-all book that Bruce Boudreaux is a piece of excrement in so many words. But he feels that Boudreaux's coaching is leading to the demise of the Ducks. He feels like without Boudreaux they would have a cup in tow, and so far they haven't. They won the cup in 2007. Haven't really got to the Stanley Cup final since then. But they got some shiny new unis this year, and they're a pretty good team. They got Colligiano, Getzlaff, and Perry on that first line, so they're looking pretty good.
What are we doing for? Is that them?
Is that what?
Is that bitty all folks?
That's all, folks. Real quick.
No.
What? Okay.
Predictions. We need predictions. I just meant, are you done?
That's what.
Okay.
Yeah. Alex, that's what I was going to go to next.
Okay.
Pens and 4.
I thought you were going to end the podcast. I was like, no.
No. We got to do predictions. We're going to predict all the trophies. We're going to predict the final standings. So who do we got for 30th, guys? We have to agree on this, by the way.
Oh, God.
Anywhere?
Columbus. No.
Okay. No.
Phoenix.
No.
Arizona.
No. All the way to Tacoma. No. Stanley Cup final. Man, in the West, it's still to me. It's
really hard
not
to pick Chicago or LA. It's impossible not to pick Chicago.
It's between the Kings and the Blackhawks, and we'll see if Anaheim could surprise and keep the cup in the same state with a different city for the first time in a long time. I think the first time ever. No, since Alberta did it in the 80s. And Alberta's not a state; it's a province. Good job, Will. Out of the Eastern Conference, it really could be. It really could be anybody. Well, not anybody. It's not going to be the Islanders. And if the Islanders want to prove me wrong, then I would be pleased to do that. I would love to see a Penguins Blackhawks final. I think that's what the hockey world would like to see. I'm going to go with, that's how I'll make my decision. I'll go with what I would like to see. It would be the Penguins and the Blackhawks. but I think the Blackhawks would probably win that series because they're so steady.
I can't see
in
like
playoffs.
the Rangers making another run. They're not built where you're like, yeah, you guys can do that annually. It's just kind of like, yeah, you did well, and maybe you can do well this year, but I can't see them getting back to the
Well,
finals.
they took advantage of a Montreal team that lost their starting goalie.
Exactly.
Really.
Exactly.
I mean, they're not a bad team, but I mean, they're like edge.
They did well against the Pittsburgh in that series too. So I mean, there were no schlubs. They got AV there, good initials, good coach.
A little bias there. But,
a little initial bias, yeah, absolutely.
Solid bias.
A little initial bias, but that's okay. So yeah, I'm picking the Hawks and Gwins in the final. What about you, Matt?
I'll go with. Maybe I should have considered this even a little bit. I'm gonna say let's be a little let's say Ducks and Penguins. Let's do that.
Ducks and Penguins, okay.
Sure.
An all foul matchup. And Alex, you agree with me? Say Blackhawks and Penguins.
I'm going Stars and Canadians.
That's not a crazy prediction. I think the Stars are looking good this year.
I think the Stars could surprise. Like it's a different one. It's not likely, but I don't know. We'll see. And I'm going to stick with that. And you write that down, and in 8 months, I'll be depressed, and it'll be fine.
I will write that down.
It's fine.
I'll write
It's
that down
fine.
right now.
It's fine.
Thanks for listening this week, folks.
One more thing. Sorry, and I would be remiss to mention that the new head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins is from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, home of all of us, as well as star forward Sidney Crosby. So I'm kind of interested what's gonna happen there. I think he was an assistant in Vancouver previously, but I just wanted to mention shout out to Mike Johnston.
Yeah, Hubble got you.
Yeah.
Hubble got you, Mike Johnston.
Well, boys,
So it's a Triple Threat podcast.
Where can we find you boys on Twitter?
Maddie.
Anybody? Go ahead.
No, I'm at MP Vaughn.
Yep.
And just chock full of goodness on there.
And I am at MP Vaughn, but take out the M and the P
Wait a second.
and put an E. And then leave the Vaughn, but then put an ICS at the end.
Yeah. What was your prediction again, Matt? I was writing it down. I forgot what your prediction for the final.
Ducks and Penguins.
Ducks and Gwins. Oh, the all-foul final. That was a good joke by me, by the way.
I was going to say Cavaliers and Heat.
Okay.
They can't
you can find me on
face
Twitter.
each other in the finals because they're both in the Eastern Conference, you idiot.
Okay, fine. Fine. The
Just say Spurs.
Patriots
Just say
Jets.
Spurs.
Patriots Jets.
Okay, well,
Hold on.
what are we even doing here?
I can get this.
You can find me on Twitter at William C. Vaughn. If you're going to a game this year, or if you have anything to say about hockey on Twitter at all, use the hashtag Triple Threat Podcast loves NHL hockey a lot, and we'll definitely retweet that. So again,
remember,
it's the hashtag Triple Threat Podcast likes NHL hockey a lot, and if you retweet that, then we might have a prize to give out. Maybe one of those
rate us on iTunes,
T-shirts,
please, for the love of the Lord.
Because I can't rate us on iTunes anymore. I'm not allowed to.
Yeah, and remember, if women don't find you handsome, they're probably not going to date you.
Yeah, but I think keep your stick in the ice would be a better sign off this week.
Too bad. I already signed off. Matt, cut all this out.
Okay, actually, Matt, can you do me a favor and just
Put in the music
No,
don't know.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, there you
Unless
go.
it fits perfectly.
Thanks a lot for listening, folks, and take care. Hug your loved ones. Give your mama a kiss if she's nearby, or give her a call if you haven't talked to her in a while, like I haven't. Love
I'm
you
going to
not.
see her in like 12 minutes.
There you go. But who's counting? You're gonna go see her at work on a Monday morning, of course, which is when this podcast is out, and the only time you should ever
give
be
it a
listening
rest,
to
Will.
is-
Nope.
Okay. Thanks, folks. We love you. Bye. Kisses.
Bye, everybody.